Pushing pawns. Moving pawns in the opening instead of developing pieces feels natural. They control space and seem to build a strong center. But every pawn move in the opening is a wasted opportunity to bring a piece into the game. While one player is shuffling pawns around, the other is developing knights and bishops, preparing to castle, and building an army ready to fight. The general principle is simple. In the opening, move each piece once before moving any piece twice, and avoid moving pawns unless they directly help development or control the center. Players who ignore this principle often find themselves behind in development and scrambling to catch up before the middle game even begins. Early queen. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board, and beginners often feel the urge to use her immediately. The problem is that the queen becomes a target. Every time the opponent develops a piece and attacks the queen, she has to move again, and the opponent gains a free tempo. A bishop or knight developed with tempo against a wandering queen is essentially getting a free move, which compounds into a significant advantage over the course of the opening. The queen is most effective when she enters the game after the other pieces have been developed and a clear plan has been established. Unsafe King. Castling feels like an optional luxury to many beginners, something to do when there is nothing better. In reality, it is one of the most important moves of the game, tucking the king behind a wall of pawns while simultaneously activating a rook. Players who delay castling too long often find their king caught in the center as the position opens up, making it vulnerable to attacks from multiple directions at once. The rule of thumb is simple: castle early, usually within the first 10 moves, and make it a priority rather than an afterthought. Useless trades. Beginners often trade pieces simply because the opportunity presents itself. A bishop can take a knight, so they take it. But every trade should have a purpose. Are you trading a passive piece for an active one? Are you eliminating a dangerous attacker? Are you simplifying into a winning endgame? Trading without a reason often hands the opponent exactly the piece they wanted off the board, or gives them a positional advantage like the bishop pair, or a better pawn structure. Before making any capture, the question to ask is not just "can I take this?" but "should I?" Missing threats. It is easy to become so focused on your own plan that you forget your opponent has plans of their own. A common beginner mistake is to continue executing an attack or a development scheme while completely overlooking that the opponent is about to win a piece, deliver a check, or set up a devastating combination. Good chess requires constant awareness of what the other side is threatening. Before making any move, the habit of asking "what does my opponent want to do next?" is one of the most valuable instincts a developing player can build. Playing too fast. Chess rewards careful thought, and one of the most common mistakes at every level, not just beginners, is making moves without sufficient consideration. The impulse to play quickly, especially when a move seems obvious, leads to blunders that could have been avoided with an extra 10 seconds of checking. The habit of pausing before every move, scanning the board for threats, and verifying that the intended move doesn't leave anything hanging is one of the simplest and most effective improvements any player can make, regardless of their level. Grabbing pawns. A free pawn is hard to resist, and beginners will often chase extra material even when doing so puts them behind in development or exposes their king. The extra pawn rarely compensates for the time lost and the positional problems created. This is the fundamental logic behind gambits. One side offers material knowing that the development advantage or the initiative gained is worth more than the pawn. Experienced players understand that time and activity are often more valuable than material, especially in the early and middle stages of the game. Repeating moves. Every time a piece that has already been developed moves again in the opening, another piece sits undeveloped on the back rank. This compounds quickly. A player who moves the same knight 3 times in the first 10 moves may find that their bishop, rooks, and queen have never moved at all. The opponent who has developed everything efficiently has a massive lead in piece activity and can often launch a decisive attack before the lagging side has even finished bringing their army into play. Bad squares. Not all squares are equal, and placing a piece on a square where it has no influence, where it can be easily attacked, or where it blocks your own pawns is a subtle but significant mistake. A knight on the edge of the board controls very few squares. A bishop blocked by its own pawns on the same color is nearly useless. A rook on a closed file with no prospect of opening has very little impact on the game. Developing the habit of asking whether a piece is active and well placed, rather than simply whether it has moved, is a mark of a player beginning to think more deeply about the game. No plan. Chess at its core is a battle of plans, and one of the clearest signs of a beginner is moving without any clear idea of what they are trying to achieve. Each move should serve a purpose, whether that is improving a piece, creating a threat, restricting the opponent, or preparing a future idea. Playing aimlessly, making whatever move seems reasonable in the moment without a broader strategy, leads to drifting positions where the opponent's purposeful play gradually dominates. Even a flawed plan is better than no plan at all because it gives each move direction and meaning. Ignoring endgames. Many beginners treat the endgame as an afterthought, assuming the game will be decided in the middle game through tactics or a direct attack. But a large proportion of games between improving players reach endgames, and the player who understands basic endgame principles, king activity, pawn promotion, opposition, rook placement, has a significant edge. Neglecting endgame study in favor of memorizing opening lines is one of the most common imbalances in a beginner's chess education, and it costs games that should have been drawn or won. Bad mental. Both extremes are common at the beginner level. Some players resign the moment they lose material, not realizing that chess is full of defensive resources and that the opponent still has to convert the advantage. Others play on long after the position is objectively lost, hoping for a blunder rather than learning from the experience. Finding the balance, fighting hard while the position has genuine counterplay, and accepting defeat gracefully when it does not, is part of developing both as a chess player and as a competitor.